Good morning and hello, everybody. I would like to welcome you to today's podcast from the seminar Phonology in Context. One of the possible or one of the suggested assignments, I would rather say, was to document the style a recording artist shows in his vocals, the projection of a regional or global identity, and possible inconsistencies which in this case me, which I want to explain. Okay, so far so good. Well, to start with, I have to admit that I spent hours and hours thinking about what kind of, first of all, what kind of music type I could have a closer look at. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of possibilities. For example, hip hop, rap, soul, rhythm and blues, rock and roll, pop music, all different kinds of stuff, different kinds of music styles, and consequently different kind of artist choices. In the end, I had to ask myself, what kind of lyrics inspire me the most in recent time? And that's why my decision was to have a closer look at the lyrics and the song text from Ed Sheeran. Okay, so let's now have a quick look at the overview, what this presentation is going to be about. First of all, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Ed Sheeran's past life, about the last couple of years, and then we're gonna have a quick look at the discography of Ed Sheeran's musical career up to now, followed by the main part of this podcast, which is going to be an analysis of three songs from Ed Sheeran, which means that we're going to have a closer look at the lyrics and also at the content. And lastly, I'm going to finish off this presentation with some formulated major conclusions and also take home messages. So, Ed Sheeran grew up in Framingham in Suffolk, where his mother was a jewelry designer and his father was a curator. It was possibly his older brother Matthew who inspired him to start playing the guitar at the age of 11. Yeah, and he kept doing this, and 3 years later, he already publishes his first EP, The Orange Room. Since life experience was major to him, he started playing in regional taverns and bars, and when he was 17 years old, he decided to move to London to push his musical career to the next level. In September 2011, he had a debut with his first album Plus. Especially the songs A-Team and Lego House managed to become very popular all over the globe. And that's why this period can be seen as his musical breakthrough, I would say. Another highlight in his musical career is when Ed Sheeran was asked to compose a song for the Hobbit movie in 2013. The song I See Fire was on top of the charts in several countries for a couple weeks. Already 1 year later, he publishes his second studio album that is called Multiply. And this year, the recent album Divide comes to the crowd. Let me shortly mention some of Ed Sheeran's major achievements. His third studio album was sold already 672,000 times in the first week only, which was never achieved by another male artist up to now. He was the first artist who had the first 5 positions of the British single charts. All in all, he had 9 songs from the album Divide in the top 10. What is more to say is that Ed Sheeran is not only a very successful musician, but also a quite successful actor because he already appeared in some British sitcoms, and this summer he will also appear in the new season from Game of Thrones. Like I said before in the overview, let's first of all have a quick look at the discography from Ed Sheeran's albums. In the top left corner, we see the album cover from Ed Sheeran's first album, Plus. It was released in 2011. Then, in the top right corner, we have the second studio album. It was released in 2014, and it was called Multiply. The studio album that was released this year is called Divide. Well, I don't know if Ed Sheeran is into math or something, but if this trend goes on, his next album is probably going to be called Minus or Subtraction. We don't know that yet, and in some internet forums there are a lot of discussions going on, but I would say let the speculation be speculation and just stay tuned for what is up next. After this brief introduction, let us now have a go and listen to one of Ed Sheeran's recent songs called Castle on the Hill.
When I was 6 years old, I broke my leg. And I was running from my brother and his friends, and tasted the sweet perfume of the mountain grass I rolled down. I was younger then. Take me back to when I found my heart, broke it here, made friends and lost them through the years. And I've not seen the boring fields in so long. I know I've grown, but I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way.
So let's first have a look at the pronunciation of some words that you see here on this slide. In the first line, notice the pronunciation of the word years. I would say years, since I am more what you would call a general American speaker, but Ed Sheeran clearly uses the pronunciation years. There is no R in the end, but rather a schwa. So, years. Let's go on with the third line. The sweet perfume. That's the way I would pronounce it, but Ed Sheeran rather says the sweet perfume. And again, we don't hear the R, which makes it, again, a rather RP-ish pronunciation, which is the same for the word grass. And also in the last line, I can't wait to go home, which is also typically RP. And also when the chorus arrives later on in the song, Ed Sheeran pronounces the word as castle on the hill, which is again typically RP. If you ask me, the RP pronunciation seems to be very consistent in this song. Fair enough, since Ed Sheeran was born and raised in England. And in my perspective, Ed Sheeran's lyrics in this song, they work extremely well. If one takes a closer look at the content of the lyrics, it gets clear that he is talking about his past as a child, which turns out to have some plausible facts in it. The castle on the hill could perfectly be the Framlingham Castle, which is truly on a hill of grass. And also when watching the video clip, there is a young boy with orange hair that could perfectly be Ed Sheeran himself. Let's now have a look at the second song that I chose for this podcast. It's called Supermarket Flowers.
I took the supermarket flowers from the windowsill, I threw the day-old tea from the cup, packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the get well soon cars and stuffed animals, poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink.
Again, let's first have a look at the pronunciation. Within the words supermarket flowers, there is a schwa rather than an R noticeable. Supermarket. Here, another significant feature of RP is remarkable. Super, like in words like news, stupid, or Tuesday. Another typical feature is the pronunciation of the word cards. The long R in this word is also typical for RP. And last but not least, the ginger beer, with a diphthong rather than a monophthong followed by an R. Again, the standard British English or received pronunciation is omnipresent in this song. Now, if we take a closer look in this song at the content of these lines, we can see that Ed Sheeran might be once again talking about a memory from his past as a child. He mentions his brother Matthew and also his mom and dad. After checking some internet forums, I have found out that this song is written from his mother's perspective. When her mom died, Ed's granddad wanted him to share the memory, which is why he put it on a record on his recent album. Maybe one last example now to show that there are, however, sometimes inconsistencies regarding Ed Sheeran's choice of music and lyrics. For this, we take a look at the song Sing, which was produced together with famous US rapper Pharrell Williams. Most of his songs are what I would call relatively slow and emotional songs, accompanied by his guitar. But let's first listen to the song. This time, you don't need to focus on the pronunciation too hard. Just lean back and enjoy.
This love is a blaze, I saw flames from the side of the stage, and the fire brigade comes in a couple of days. Until then we got nothing to say and nothing to know, but something to drink and maybe something to smoke. Let it go until our roads are changed, singing we found love in a local rave. No, I don't really know what I'm supposed to say, but I can just figure it out and hope and pray. I told her my name, I said it's nice to meet you, then she handed me a bottle of water filled with tequila. I already know she's a keeper, just from this one small act of kindness I'm in deep. If anybody finds out, I meant to drive home, but I don't call it now, not sobering up. We just sit on the couch, one thing led to another, now just kissing my mouth.
What is most striking about these lyrics and the articulation that Ed Sheeran has in this song is that he's more actually kind of rapping than actually singing, which is unusual for him since he's a pop musician, I would say. Yeah, rather than a hip hop artist or a rapper. So here, in my perspective, clearly the influence of Pharrell Williams can be seen in this song. What is also quite remarkable is the fact that if you look at the small picture on the right, that Ed Sheeran, even though he seems to be rapping, he's rapping with his guitar. I mean, something unusual that I have never seen before. An artist with a guitar in his hand and rapping rather than singing. This makes me think that even though Ed Sheeran seems to have kind of, I would say, a regional identity because of his lyrics, since he was a songwriter, his lyrics are all written by himself, probably because also of his own personal experience. Nevertheless, he seems to adopt a little bit to kind of a global identity, if you ask me. So now, let me please come to the major conclusions and the take-home message of this presentation. Well, what is most important regarding the songs of Ed Sheeran is that he has a lot of melancholic or depressing songs to process his past. One example is Supermarket Flowers, where he processes the death of his grandmother using the perspective of his mother. Another example is Castle on the Hill, where he's just missing his past as a child and lost his friends and everything changed. This adds to what I would call a somewhat regional identity. Even though he's a world star and everybody knows him, he seems to stick to his roots and his past and always uses the past to write new songs. Another thing that is central is that his guitar seems to be omnipresent, even though when he's rapping in a song with Pharrell Williams, he sticks to his guitar. Since he started as a songwriter, we can assume that he is still making up his own lyrics, which in my perspective makes him a genuine singer and songwriter. After analyzing the lyrics in terms of pronunciation and content, I would suggest that this adds to his regional identity, since he is singing in RP. Nevertheless, from time to time, he seems to be adopting to a global identity. The best example, the song with Pharrell Williams, where he even starts to rap. And last but not least, to end this whole presentation, here my references. Thank you for your attention, and bye bye.